Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Metabolic Radio with your hosts Taylor Empey, that's me, and Shane Pace.
And that's Taylor Empey.
And that's Shane Pace.
I'm not holding up a sign. I can't prove it.
That's fine. Well, I mean, if people are watching the YouTube video, the audio listeners won't be able to tell for sure.
That's true,
unless they are very good at, voice analysis.
The way they
forensic stuff. I don't know.
the way that they verify is they have you hold up your sign. Yeah, let's fix myself down a little bit. That's me, kind of. Wow.
So we are going to catch up our Q&As today. We have been getting, and for the next few episodes, we've been getting a lot of Q&As, and we've just had a crazy few weeks of events and personal life situations. So thanks for your patience. And so we're going to reward you guys with a lot of episodes. So shall we just get into it, Shane?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Scratching my dogs.
All right. So the first one, Serena Flynn. Serena, she emailed me a while back, and I just want to say I apologize for the delayed response, Serena, but thank you so much for your question. And I will, you're probably going to, by the time you listen to this, I'm just going to have personally sent you the link. So, no problem there. But Serena says, although I live on the other side of the country, I found you guys by chance and read up on you and saw a lot of good responses from others about you. My main concern is my weight and my height proportions. Although I'm 145 pounds, I am 59 inches in height. Not only do I have 2 herniated discs, but I also have a bladder disease that's debilitating, and therefore, because of those 2 things, it hinders my being more productive in trying to maintain my weight. I used to be in great shape and even participated in boxing, but once I got injured, that stopped. I've had 2 trainers since then. One began as if we'd already been training for 6 months.
Which is wrong.
Yeah, I think she's implying that they pushed her too hard.
Too fast.
Which is a common mistake amongst amateur trainers.
Many trainers.
Yeah. And then the other lady literally wanted to be paid for just talking to me, rarely showing up or even on time because she spread herself too thin. I don't know if you'll be able to help me with anything, but as always, I'm optimistic, very hopeful, and I could even if I could just get 25 or even 15 pounds off, I would be super happy with any of those results. So, Serena, I'm just going to say right now, I am not familiar with bladder diseases of any kind, so I can't give you any insight on that unless you give us a lot more details in regards to what specifically you're suffering from. I'm not sure how that affects your weight and your internal physiology, so I can't personally give you any information. Shane, how about you?
Well, I would actually want more information too. I know a little bit more than that, but not much. I would want to spend a lot more time studying it too. I've been looking into it right now, but it's what I'm looking at is not the stuff that I've read preceding this, and so now I'm even less. I feel a little less knowledgeable on it than I did even before I looked.
Yeah, I feel like
I'm lacking on that.
It could probably have some similar negative impacts to kidney-related issues and filtration and things like that. So we're gonna do some more digging on that, but please send another response either to Shane or myself, Taylor@metabolicradio.com or Shane@metabolicradio.com. And or post on the Facebook group, Metabolic Radio Private Forum on Facebook, and let's see if we can't get some of our other listeners chiming in, because you never know. We've got a lot of smart people in that group that could throw some answers your way too. But in regards to your herniated discs, I think we can definitely help out with that.
Well, we can discuss it. There's definitely some stuff that I would want to what's the word I'm looking for?
Clarify?
Not clarify. I'm talking along the lines of I would recommend that you be cautious around dealing with herniations, but we can definitely talk more in detail about it. Like I said before, because just so you guys know, we did talk about this before we got on here, and yeah, I'm willing to talk about that because that is something I deal with myself.
Yeah, and it's going to depend on which part of the spine. Which vertebrae specifically, the discs that are associated with those vertebrae are herniated, because it's going to have different impacts, whether it's cervical, thoracic, or lumbar spine. So Shane, with your experience as with massage and working on people, having herniations and then yourself also having herniated discs. What's been your experience for working around those in the gym when your goal is weight loss, when you're doing resistance training, and maybe herniated discs on different sections of the spine?
Well, it depends. There's many factors that go into herniations. The funny thing is, as a massage therapist dealing with herniations, one of the things that that we would do is we take those exercise balls, and we would, depending on how you did it, it would actually cause the herniation, not the herniation, but the slip disc, what people refer to as a slip disc when it starts to slide out. It can actually push it back into the middle.
When you say exercise balls, you're talking about those large Swiss balls, or are you talking
Yes.
about myofascial release balls?
No. The big exercise ball that you sit on, and yeah, the Swiss ball.
Okay, I was just clarifying.
Right, no, that's fine. But yeah, there's different techniques. The weird thing is sometimes when you do what would logically work, it does the wrong thing, and in even the way that we did courses on it, like they'd have you lay on it one way and it would cause it to go back in. With some people, it would go the opposite direction. It was the weirdest thing ever. It wouldn't cause it to protrude out a different direction, but it would. So you'd be doing the exact wrong thing as far as they say, and it'd pop it back in. The reason why you suggest the idea of being cautious and bringing a doctor into anything related to a herniation is because of what it could do to your spine.
So
more. Sorry, puppies. You're gonna jump right up. They just ran off. See you guys. But that's the reason why I say use caution, because you don't want to do anything that's going to relate to potentially injuring your spine. Herniations in general usually will do a compression on the nerve root concept, and what that'll do is it will. You gonna come get in my face, little dog? It will cause like numbness and tinglings and all those kind of things.
Because it pinches some of those ventral or those rootlets that come out from the spinal cord, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that you can see is a relationship. I wouldn't do anything heavy related to anything that will do compression on those discs until you have more of control over it. But they actually can be healed pretty well. So
how would you go about doing that with massage therapy and chiropractics? And would you strengthen the muscles around the spine?
Nope.
So
what I would do,
surgery?
I would check with the doctor to make sure you're able to do this. But I would definitely use an inversion table, because what that does, it takes and it gives it an opening to the for the disc to actually start to heal itself. Now, after that point, I would start to do what you're talking about, but I wouldn't at first.
Yeah. So I've heard that once a disc is herniated, you can't fix that. It's kind of
not true.
You don't believe that's true?
I absolutely don't believe that at all. I've seen evidence against that.
Okay.
So the now is it going to have a weakness? Yes, but it's not like the nervous system. It doesn't have an open, always not healed concept. It actually can be healed quite a bit.
So what would be some good advice for her, like some bullet points of what she could take away from this in order to deal with her disc herniations, depending on where they are at? If there's what should she do if it's cervical vertebrae, if it's thoracic, or if it's a low back lumbar spine?
Thoracic, well, all of them. She got to move. All of them, if you use an inversion table, like I said, what it'll do is it'll start to reset the spine the way it should be, and it'll cause you to have a lot less problems in that. But again, I would get checked before I would actually recommend doing something like that for many reasons. One of which is the pressure that it puts to your head. Another one, because that changes after you've done it for a time. Personal experience, anecdotally. Because it will actually make it so that you have the capacity to take more and more time with less pressure build up in your head, and you're going to lose actual visibility of me. What's up, puppy? But those kinds of things are going to reset it almost automatically. Then you want to make sure that you keep your curvature in your spine. So it's not that you're going to have to lift in any specific fashion to do that. but anytime you're going to strengthen your core is going to help with anything dealing with especially the lower part of the thoracic and with the lumbar region for sure. Most of the stuff related to cervical spine stuff, again, you can. One of the things I used to do is I would take a tennis ball or two of them, and I'd put them in behind my back, the back of my. Watch out, jumper, so they can see behind the back of my head.
Yeah.
At the very base of the skull, and I would set it in such a way I'd either use one or two just to make it so I could get that curve back, because that actually will help it, and it'll work with those kind of things. Now I will tell you that if someone has the knowledge to do it, to go in the front of the neck, it is the most bizarre feeling ever, and relax the muscles, the scalenes, and the muscles that are anterior of the actual spine itself. If they do that, it will actually help with that. When somebody works on the back of the neck as a warning, what will happen is it will actually make it worse. It'll exacerbate it. So you really don't want. It's the average massage therapist that hasn't worked with injuries, which it sounds to me like your friend would actually know quite a bit about this.
Vince has specifically worked on this particular type of situation.
Right. He
goes in from the front.
Yeah, and no, I've with Sue from the forum. Anybody who knows that, Sue, she and I conversed about him quite in depth, and I really am. I want him on here because I want to discuss what he's done, because his knowledge base is pretty solid. But yeah, you find someone who knows what they're doing and can do it correctly. The weirdest thing in the front of the neck, there's a risk factor. Okay, it's the biggest risk factor. Two of them actually. Is the arteries.
Cutting off blood supply.
Not cutting it off.
No.
Breaking things free and causing a stroke is the biggest risk factor.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
The other side of it is, because the odds are you're not going to cut it off completely on both sides at the same time, but if you break something free and it shoots in your brain, that's going to be an instantaneous stroke.
Yeah.
That is a possibility. You don't want to sit on top of it and build pressure in the arteries as well, but that's not the second part of it. The second part is the trachea itself, because you actually have to move it to be able to get in behind it. And if they do it wrong, they can kill you. So you want to make sure their knowledge base is actually pretty solid on that before they start working it. But that'll help quite substantially on anything cervical spine related. I have problems in my neck, but mine's based on arthritis, and I will admit the chiropractic helps with it quite a bit. But it is something that I'm going to have to deal with forever. It's just the nature of my structure at this point. But chiropractic, in fairness, I'm not going to say that a poor chiropractor can't hurt you and do the wrong things. But a good chiropractor, I'm going to talk along the lines of all this is people that know what they're doing and are good at what they do. A good chiropractor is going to help with any of this kind of stuff, including herniations. Physical therapy, if you get a good physical therapist, they can help to actually make that regenerate, that disc. The stuff that they'll work through, but that's a totally different nature than working out in a gym. And all those kind of things in conjunction will work out phenomenally well. Again, there's ways to go in, and this is what Sue and I were talking about at the time, but to get in behind and release muscles in the anterior of the spine down in the oxcoccyx area, and what you know as the piriformis. If you can get in and do that correctly, that will help relax certain things. But in all honesty, my opinion is most of the time you don't want to touch that, and the reason why is because you want that to keep your arc, because you want to have a lumbar arc. You don't want it to relaxing. If it relaxes, it'll cause you to lose your curve that you should have there as a natural curve, which will cause more problems in your discs.
Unless they have overactive hip flexors and an anterior pelvic tilt, which would cause
that is correct.
Which would cause more lumbar spinal compression and more back pain, and that would be from tight hip flexors or specifically the iliopsoas group. That they could have worked on or attempt to stretch.
And you're right, because I said piriformis, and that's in the back.
Yeah,
you're right. That's what I was thinking.
I heard what you said, and I was like, didn't.
No. You're right. You're right on. I was thinking the psoas. I I was actually breaking that into the two muscles
the pirisoas group.
Well, the psoas itself is
the
what
iliopiriformis.
wow,
I'm making up muscles.
You are absolutely killing me by making fun of this, which is okay with me. Don't get me wrong, but you know the piriformis is actually under the gluteal muscles. Yeah. I wasn't thinking about that. That's right. Almost. In fact, I'll lay it out since I made a mistake and threw it out there and wasn't thinking about it. But that's if you go right in the pocket where your pocket sits in most pants, you go right in the center of that, and you will hit the piriformis almost dead on. So yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the iliopsoas. So I was talking about the psoas muscle directly because that's the one you can touch the easiest. The iliacus muscle is actually inside the oxycoccyx, and the psoas comes in and connects to it, and it becomes what we call the iliopsoas. Because it has the same
function.
Insertion.
Yeah.
It does have the same function too.
I was going to say, that's the one you don't want to relax. So I mean, basically, depending on the severity, how many discs are herniated, and the location, they can definitely be worked around. I've trained people who've had different disc herniations. More commonly, I have a client right now I've trained for 3 years who has 2 cervical vertebrae that are bulged or herniated discs. And
you can train around cervical stuff easy.
Yeah, and I had another girl I worked with who had the exact same issue, and she was able to bear weight on her shoulders and appropriate barbell placement and different things like that. So at least with working around your back issues, absolutely, it can be very safe to exercise. Depending on the location of where those herniated discs are. Now, if they're in more of like a lumbar region, you want to still be careful with large lifts that cause a lot of load in the spine, things like squats and deadlifts. It doesn't mean you can't do them, but you need to be cautious.
And believe it or not, leg presses as well. Leg press does an unbelievable amount of pressure in your lower back.
Yep. And because depending on the depth and range of motion that a person has, it'll cause a pelvic tilt, which will cause a flexion of the lumbar spine if they go too deep, and can compromise that. So really, you just got to use your best judgment based off of the injury that you have, and just know that it may limit you, but it doesn't have to, depending on your individual circumstances. And
I have
work around it, if not work to help better it.
Agreed. Now, granted, I have my low back is terrible, but I have at least 2 herniations, and I still, we both know I'm not doing much right now. I've got to fix my stupid shoulder, but I can still squat fine. I can still squat. I can still deadlift. It really doesn't give much more problems to that area. I would say though, if you are doing that and you notice any increase, I would definitely do it in stages and work light up. I would go heavy. You can go heavy once you feel like you're secure enough to be able to do that, but I would take it in stages. And again, I would definitely consult someone who would be a professional in this directly, just for safety reasons more than anything else. Again, I think that a lot of people that would, when I'm talking medical professionals, would probably not know enough to really be able to see anything. But I would rather have you be safe than sorry. Don't risk something and make a mistake.
I mean, really, like, again, just using your best judgment, engage in a resistance training program, certain aerobic training, depending on what your goals are.
Aerobics can actually be very, 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 very damaging to
because of the impact, depending on
because of the impact.
But
absolutely,
there's low impact aerobic that she can still engage in.
Absolutely. There's always something you can do.
So really, I would just conservatively try a variety of exercises in different loads or amounts of weight being used, and see what your body responds to, and listen to your body.
For sure.
There's so many exercises you can use as alternatives. It should be something that you're aware of and conscious of, but something that can be strengthened and you can work around.
For sure.
So hopefully that gives you some ideas. If you want more details, email us back on the specifics of that bladder disease. We'll try to help you out, or other questions that you have.
Yep.
Shall we do the next?
The show.
Okay. Brittany Tanner, she says, I found you on Facebook and I'm very impressed. You guys are really fit and healthy, and I envy your commitment. I've tried and failed several times to lose weight. I know the reason, though. I don't know how to prepare healthy meals. I've tried and failed. Oh, wait, whoops. prepare healthy meals for the week, so I always end up eating junk food or other very unhealthy choices. I've got the Beachbody programs, and my sister has all the programs on demand, so the exercise isn't the hardest part. I've heard that the rule, statistics say that it's diet is 70% of it, while weight loss and exercise is 30%. If you have any tips about that, that would be helpful. People will also say like it's 80-20, it's 70-30. These are arbitrary numbers. It's basically a way for people to say nutrition has a really high impact on your goals.
Which is true.
And people ask me that all the time. And honestly, what I say is this: you cannot just diet your way to a good body, and you cannot just exercise your way to a good body. You have to have both. So rather than thinking of it in terms of 70%, 30%, you just need to be committed to 100% of both with appropriate leniency, depending on how strict you want, the kind of lifestyle that you want, and your goal. And that's right. Well, that's what I tell my clients. What are your thoughts, Shane?
Well, let's first off talk about something that she didn't ask about and that we didn't talk about, so you might be irritated with my doing this. But
I just don't know what you're going to say, so you can say.
Oh, I'm well aware. This is me taking complete control of this. Here's the problem. I'm not hacking on any exercise programs directly in general.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to tell you right now the risk on, not the risk, the realization towards Beachbody. They're not terrible, but they're not amazing either. And so the issues I've got with Beachbody is I'm not going to be specific enough. Anybody who knows their programs will understand what I'm talking about. But some of them are extremely high on their impact, and they're excessive in how they actually are put together, which doesn't necessarily make them good. You know,
in terms of intensity or volume.
Intensity,
okay.
Yes, both. Some of the programs, the program I'm thinking of specifically is extreme on intensity and volume. It does a ton of extreme high impact type, not high hit, a lot of hit type reactions, but it does it in longer bursts, and that is not necessarily beneficial. And that's something that your body, you know, will adapt to. At which point, exercises that will be truly, in my opinion, more effective and overall a better, I don't want to say fit, but a more healthy direction to go with this kind of stuff will not work as well because you beat yourself up so stinking much. And then you have to step back and you have to fix that. Again, I'm not taking away from Beachbody. Don't get me wrong on this. I mean, not that I'm afraid to do that, because I'm absolutely willing to go out and attack anybody that I really think deserves it. I have played around with Beachbody products as far as their exercise programs, and you know, personally, I enjoy it. I've enjoyed the ones I've done. I like them. I think they're great. I like the personalities that are behind them as well. That's why I'm not directly going to hack them, but I think their programming has a little bit desired. I don't think any of them, with the exception of, I will name this one. What is it called? Body Beast, which is more of a.
I'm not familiar with that one.
It's a weightlifting based one. It's a program that was put together that it's dealing with actually lifting weights. And again, if you understand the basic principles of setting up a program, it's not terrible, but it's not great. For someone who's getting into it as kind of a beginner, or if it's to motivate them to move forward, it's not bad. But I actually don't mind that one, because the nature of it is it uses weights. I mean, it uses dumbbells. It doesn't really use barbells, but it uses dumbbells quite excessively. And I really don't. I actually like the setup of that. It is definitely a split program. It's not a full body, but again, you know, it's the nature of how it does it. Again, my problems stemming off that program is it really doesn't teach you how to set things up. It doesn't work with you in design. It gives you a setup plan, and it just has you go for it. You know, the work absolutely would work for somebody if they're using it for the first time. But that's my only thing to start with. Is I question the validity of using it all the time, and just be careful with what you're doing on it. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, so my input would be the very first actual besides like a weightlifting class I did in high school that I didn't take seriously because I wasn't into fitness then, the first real focused exercise program that I did that wasn't martial arts related was P90X, the first version. And I wasn't overweight, and I didn't have a lot of extra body fat. I didn't have a lot of muscle either, or a lot of background in resistance training. But the first leg workout that I did, the next day I collapsed and fell all down my stairs because it beat me up so bad. That's an anecdotal experience. Maybe I was weak. Maybe the program was too intense. I don't know. But I think when it comes to home-based programs, regardless of the company that's made it, where you've bought it, or whatever, home-based exercise programs can be a nice thing to throw into the mix of an exercise regimen. It's not going to be a complete balanced exercise program, depending on what you have available in your home. But the way these are designed are often minimal to no equipment needed. Which can get
that
you
is
results.
True, and that's not bad, right?
I mean, you can look at the testimonials. There are legitimate results that can be delivered. The only issue I have with programs like that is that they're so mass produced. It's such a very general programming that results are going to vary dramatically per the individual. And honestly, I would invest some money into a quality trainer who can give you a lot. I mean, 1 hour with a quality trainer could point you in such a better direction, even if you don't know how to do certain things, or it's your first time. If you work with a quality trainer, they really could point you in the right direction for what you specifically need for your body type, your medical conditions, your genetic history, your risk factors, what your goal is, rather than just buying a mass program and beating yourself up. But some people would probably see exceptional results.
Oh, absolutely. Let me give you a breakdown, just because again, I'm pretty well versed with them. P90X has 3 versions to it now. He also has Tony Horton has gone on and done some stuff related to military type training.
Yeah, his core program.
Yes, yep. Core 22, I think it's called. And I mean, there's a few programs that he's done out there. He has his what is it called? He does it by himself at home. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, I guess. But he has 3 different setups for workouts. Like I said, I'm not hating. I'm not hating on him at all. I like I said, personally, I enjoy doing P90X when I play around with it. But then you have your Insanities.
I did build a good start to my 6-pack off of AbRipper X. I will say that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Does it work? Yeah, it absolutely can. I mean, I'm again, that's why I'm saying I'm not hacking it. Do I think it's programmed well? I honestly don't. But like I said, they got Insanity, they got T25, which is both. Oh my gosh, my brain's stopping on me. I can see him too. Sean T.
Oh,
Sean
yeah.
Sean T. And I mean, he's got Max 30.
He does Insanity, right?
He does Insanity.
Else?
Yeah, Insanity is his. Like I said, T25. I think it was the second one. Max 30 is a more recent one. He does one it's called Size. It's for dancing. It's kind of a dance type setup one. He does some other stuff like the hip hop abs, which I think is an absolute joke. Sorry.
Seen that one, yeah.
See, I'm going to talk down on that one. Does it work? I think it would do something if you didn't do anything before you got into it. But I think that one's kind of a joke. But
I think that's a good point that you do bring up, is that these home-based programs, though they're general and they're not specific, you could still see results with some of them.
Sure.
Some people, but the results will vary. But at least it's getting people moving, and I will defend them in that regard. In that people who it's uncomfortable for them to go to the gym. They're not psychologically ready to hire a trainer. Maybe they really financially, truly cannot afford it. And they're not just justifying not investing in their fitness. Okay, a $20 program, a $40 one-time only paid program at home to get you started. I commend people for taking action and doing that, because that's how a lot of people start, and then they realize that it's not, like, maybe they see some results, but then they plateau and they realize they need something else and they need more assistance, and then they graduate into more well-rounded training programs, incorporating a lot of other modalities.
Right, but see, again, the problem I've got with Beachbody products for the majority of the United States, or anybody who's going to buy them. Again, I'm not hacking, and I'm not saying nobody should get them, The problem with it is, though, most of them are driven for someone who has definite experience lifting weights and or doing exercises overall. Insanity for someone who has never done that kind of stuff is nuts to do. You shouldn't be doing it. It's
an athlete's program
without question. And I mean, he's done on the Asylum note coming off of our forum, but he has one called Asylum.
Really?
1 and Asylum 2, which is actually sports related, which I actually like. I think those are set up pretty well, but they're more for the athlete. And like I said, if you're looking at them and you look at them realistically, they all have their pluses and their minuses to an extent. But I think their programming, bluntly, is not that phenomenal. You know,
even if it was, it lacks the personal, customized individualization.
Absolutely.
And that's going to always be a hindrance with whenever you invest in something general that doesn't have a customization component.
Right. And that's
some programs out there may.
That's the reason why I really wanted to talk about this before we went off on the other side of it. But to me, if Beachbody is all you've got, use it. Be careful with it. Be smart about it. Will you get results? You can. Do I think they're going to be permanent? Or do I think it'll set you on a true lifestyle change? Not likely, unless you get obsessive about it, and in which case you're going to have all these different programs, and it's going to cost you way more than a personal trainer would. So it's really it's really something that I think you should be careful with. I do like the fact that she has the online stuff. It's less expensive. It gives all the options to her, and so I would say look at that closer. And look for something that's going to make sense to what you're doing. You know, there's more of one that's divided between more of a male and a female setup based off what I was talking about with lifting. The same individual who did it, I want to say his name's Sergey, but I can't remember for a fact. He did one with what's her name, Calabrese or something like that. I can't remember her name. Sorry if you're paying attention. I doubt she's going to be listening to this, but she is. I'm sorry, because she's definitely a high-end fitness competitor. But she did it with him. What is hers? Hers is the 21 Diet Fixes, the programs that she did, and then Extreme, and then she did one based on country line dancing, actually, which is, I think that's kind of cool. You know, that's more fun, and that kind of stuff I would recommend somebody play with if they're going to get into it personally. But they did one called Master. Let's see, what's it called? Master and Chisel, Hammer and Chisel,
Hammer and Sickle.
It's I think it's Hammer and Chisel if I remember right, but it's like the Master's Hammer and Chisel, and they did it in conjunction, so you kind of have two different perspectives in that program. If you're going to buy a program, I personally would recommend leaning towards something like that, which is going to give you a better dynamics, and it's not going to be high intensity stuff that you may or may not be ready for. And back with the herniation problems, to tie into this. If you're doing Insanity, that it will destroy your back.
It's highly plyometric based, from my understanding.
Yep.
And though I haven't seen all the components of the program, and that's going to be a lot of high impact, especially if it's your disc herniations are lumbar related, Serena. So,
for sure.
I think it ultimately comes down to, are there benefits? Sure. There definitely are potential benefits depending on individual factors, but mass-produced programs like that do not account for individualization that I've ever seen. But I haven't seen the actual tangible insides of every infomercial product, so there may be.
I have seen most.
Yeah, so I mean, benefit of the doubt, but I think it won't give you a completely well-rounded approach for long-term sustainability. I'd really be curious to see someone do a study on results and how sustainable they are after an exercise program like that is purchased one time only.
Go online, look at their transformations, and find one that actually has a YouTube channel, and you can see a pretty good example. They're out there. But all that being said, just be cautious.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't want to butcher Beachbody. Like I said, I'm not afraid to bring them down on us because
there's just a lot of variables to account for.
Exactly, and that's the only reason why I'm saying it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think their heart's in the right place as far as what they're putting out as products, and I'm not butchering them for it because I like the fact they're getting people to move. But that being said, talk about diet. We kind of I tangent huge.
In regards, since we are transitioning to diet and we did talk about personalization programs, I do just want to tell people about our nutrition guide. It's the Nutrition Atlas. You can get it at metabolicradio.com. This does go over the personalization components of nutrition. I'll tell you what it's not, and I'll tell you what it is. What it's not is it's not a eat this, eat this, eat this, eat this kind of diet. It's a guide that's going to teach you how to start adopting healthy nutrition principles in your life. Things like intuitive eating, eating whole foods, learning metabolic flexibility, nutritional diversity, and our nutrition calculations that will teach you actually how to calculate your individual nutritional needs. And you can use that as many times as you need to update your nutritional needs as your body's changing.
Right.
We'll teach you things like caloric estimations, protein, carbon, fat recommendations based off personal factors. It accounts for your total daily energy expenditure, the thermic effect of food, as well as the margin of error, which I've yet to see a calculator online that accounts for margin of error, and it gives you an appropriate range to start working in. And so, shameless plug for us. We worked really hard on that guide. Go check it out. It's really affordable, metabolicradio.com, if you do want personalization in your nutrition.
Yep.
So she was talking about, Brittany was talking about the 70-30 rule, or the 80-20 rule when it comes to nutrition. And like I said, there's all these catchy,
Can I get on that before you do?
Yeah, go ahead.
So here's my statement to you on that. Exercise is 100%. Diet is 100%. They work together. And the reality of it is, if you don't have good nutrition, you will not have the same results. If you don't have good exercise, you will not have the same results. Can you lose weight without having an exercise program? Absolutely. Can you build muscle very effectively on a pure nutrition program? Absolutely not. So when you start talking 80-20, I think that's it. I'll use the word misnomer.
It's arbitrary.
It's a misnomer. That's what I was going to say. It's a misnomer because the reality of it is all of it works in conjunction, and if you take one component out, it changes the entire results. It doesn't matter what it is. Now, is nutrition a big key component towards life in general? Absolutely. Is it going to have the same effects as far as being a massive benefit to do things correctly nutritionally as far as gaining muscle and losing fat? Absolutely. But again, 80-20 is an absolute misnomer in my opinion, because everything works together in conjunction in a big way.
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to say on that before we go on. But
I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. We don't need to really explain it much deeper. There's a lot of trendy topics or trendy sentences and one-liners oriented in the fitness industry, as it's just overrun with that kind of stuff. It's not that specific. It's not that simple. Like I compare that line to, it's just about calories in, calories out. Yep. Okay, that's like one rule about one concept of metabolism.
Correct.
Saying that that exercise and nutrition, it's 70% diet, 30% nutrition, or 30% exercise, is just way too general. That it's not validated. And I can think of a ton of different examples. We could keep going on and on about it, but really, you need to be committed to both, and recovery, because you can also overtrain and diet too hard. And if you're not getting adequate recovery and sleep, you still won't see results.
Absolutely true.
So that's a component that's not even covered in that statement.
No, absolutely true. But again, the reality of it is, if it was truly an 80-20 split or even a 70-30 split, you could completely do halfway your exercise program, which you're not going to get the benefit from. So that's the reason why I want to say, you got to cash all the way in on it. And you got to plan for it. You got to work through it. I mean, that's just the realities of it. And that's, like I said, that's the reason why I wanted to say it the way I did, and get it out there so that people understand that my belief is definitely not 80-20. My belief is you put in what you get out what you put in. And if you put in 100% when you work out, doesn't mean you have to be so intense that you overdo it, but you have to put in
commitment.
Yes, 100% commitment to doing it correctly, and you diet correctly, you exercise correctly, and you will get amazing results. If you diet halfway, 50% of it, and 50% commitment, and you exercise 100%, you're still going to get pretty good results, but you'll get less results than you would if you were 100% into both.
Yeah.
That's why everything we talk about is lifestyle changes. When you talk about the plug for our nutrition atlas, the reality is I don't see that as a shameless plug. I see that as something that we try not to push it out there because we don't want to be over the top on pushing this stuff on you guys, but we want to make it so that people understand that it's out there and they understand that they have the capacity to get something that's going to give them a lot more benefit. And a lot of it, and we know, you and I know this more than anybody else because of behind the scenes stuff, but a lot of that atlas came from conversations that we've had over what is the best way to deal with different metabolisms.
Yeah.
And working through that kind of stuff, the majority of people that come out with it, they throw out all this information, dealing with the idea that this is the easy way to go down with a plan. Well, that's not what we're trying to push. Our thought process is we want people to be healthy, and when we were trying to put this together, and again, I'll pat Taylor on the back. He did a lot of the work on this, but mentally and philosophically, if you will, related to nutrition, he and I were discussing this, and we wanted people to have something that would make it so that they could do their own thing.
Yes.
Our entire goal, as we've said from the very beginning, is to make it so that you guys have a window to play with that will make it so you can find out what works for your body, because you're not me and you're not Taylor. And you know what I'm saying? And so we want it to be able to be something that is customizable, and ultimately they can turn their own thing into what's perfect for them.
Well, and the big thing that I want to drive home with it is that it's reusable. This is something. This is a tool that you can use 6 months from now, 10 years from now, unless new research comes out that is more accurate, more tools or more methods that are more accurate. But as your body is changing, you could lose 20 pounds in a month. You could gain muscle. You could lose muscle. You could store fat, lose fat. You could, and this guide goes through formulations that will help you start to recalculate each time that you need to, because you're starting now with a new body and you need to fuel it differently. So it's adaptable as you continue through your program. So that's really what we love about it, is that it's not just a one-time thing. So yeah.
Well, let's before you jump off, let's talk about a few details on this, and then we're probably gonna have to drop this one because we've gone a lot longer than we were planning on it. But excuse me, I want to give a little bit of details so they don't necessarily have to buy that. They can. I mean, I'm not pushing away from it, say don't buy it because we want you to, but intermittent fasting is something you can look at as well. In more detail. There's a lot online about it. It's something that Taylor and I both have done, and it works amazingly well.
Yeah, I did IF today.
Right, and going ketogenic is something that's not a negative. I am not a vegan. I am definitely not someone who believes in that style of eating, but I'm not hating on it either, because for some people it's the right way to go. Veganism is another, not veganism, but vegetarianism is another one that's very similar in concept to that concept, but those kind of things is not how I perceive how you should eat. That being said, there's a lot to be said for someone who goes vegetarian. There really is. As a vegan, my belief is without supplementation, you are absolutely going to have deficiencies, and in a big stinking way. It's
very hard but doable, but very hard to have all the nutrition that you need as a vegan. I don't know much about him, but I know that there are vegan athletes that are very successful at it, but they use supplementation. And one I have in mind is Frank Madrano, who is an exceptional athlete. He is a vegan that to my understanding.
See, and I don't know Frank is amazing, just for the record, before I say anything else beyond that. But I don't know if he's a vegan or not. That's one thing I do not know.
To my I thought I saw something about that. If I'm wrong, someone correct me. But
no, and I'm not saying you're wrong at all, because I don't know. That was one I don't know. I have no idea how he eats. But again, realistically, I know there are professional bodybuilders that are vegans. But again, supplementation is a requirement. Things like
B vitamins, iron.
Oh yes, absolutely those. But that's not where I'm going with this. Creatine. Creatine is something you can't pull from a plant source, and so if you are because this comes from meats, your body does produce it, but it will be substantially lessened, and the effectiveness that it will have inside of your body will. I don't want to call it non-existent, but pretty much non-existent. You have to supplement that in if you're a vegan without question. If you're a meat eater, you don't necessarily have to supplement it at all. And that's one of the big differences between the two on that. But you can find, like you said, different things like irons. A lot of mineral stuff is harder to pull out of vegetables. But again, I'm not hating on the backing of that. So, that doesn't stem around your question. It was more about meal prep. I admit I'm not as good on this as Taylor is by any means, because I am someone who is not as strict about it and is not as calculating. The calculations that we have is something that I don't naturally do. I take and I look for things that are going to be more consistently the way I perceive that your body should eat, which is, like I said, I'm more ketogenic. Mine is more lower carb, which is yours is higher. And so with me, I'm not as worried even about calories when I'm really going serious. I'm looking for things that I feel that my body's going to become more healthy internally, and then it repairs itself, if you will, and starts to take care of fat problems on its own. And then and then I watch for little holes that I may miss, because I'm going to tell you the ketogenic on the other side of the coin also has its major holes. One of which is fiber. Fiber
Super
is horrendous.
Easy to be nutrient deficient on a keto diet.
It is very easy, absolutely, and that's why I'm saying, and that's more my style. That's more how my body wants to go naturally. I have more of a desire to eat that way, and that's for me that I have more of a pull to those kind of foods. So that's something more simple to me. Now, I've been as high as 5,500 calories for weeks at a time, and the reality is that is. I've never gained really much weight on that. I lose weight when I'm on a more low carb. I was never ketogenic, but I was low carb for sure, and that's the reality is because of the way it works with my body, and it works with most people's bodies. One of the side effects and results that came from it was I lost a lot of fat. So like I said, that's how I look at it. My meal prep time deals with what's going to fit in my diet today, and I go for it. Yours is more detailed. I wish I was more that way. And to be honest, guys, when I start to get back in, when I can get past my shoulder issue, Taylor called me out a while ago to do this, and I want to do it. We are intending to put out programs like we've talked about before, but I intend to actually be a guinea pig on that. And when I am, when I have my shoulder to a point where I can do this healthily, I'm going to do that, and then I'll be doing meal prep too. As something else is going to go tie into this completely, because, like I said, I think it's 100% on all of that.
I agree. Cool.
So, I'll shut up and let you talk.
No, it's all good. We're going to wrap it up, but real quick, Ben said, "Why do I have my tools in a bucket instead of a tool belt?" Because you're wrong, Ben. 'Cause you're wrong.
Oh, wow. Oh, I so did not know that was coming. Hey, Ben.
I wanted to do that.
That was to this second, that was one of the coolest questions we have ever had thrown out, and that was directed at Taylor specifically. And I will tell you, I thought that was a glorious moment. So, just so you know.
Cool. All right, people. Well, if you want your questions answered on the show, go to Metabolic Radio private forum on Facebook, or go to metabolicradio.com, and you can email us there directly, Taylor at metabolicradio.com or Shane at metabolicradio.com. We'd be happy to answer your questions on the show. And if you're not a member of our forum, go ahead and click join on the forum, and we'll add you to the group and add you to the conversation. Also, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, because that helps boost us in the rankings and help more people like you.
And Ben, we have officially recorded.
All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
Peace.